Hello everyone! Rocket Wayne is back to join you for another adventure, and this time we read Bunnicula, the Celery Stalks at Midnight. Always remember that as we go through these amazing adventures and read these outstanding stories, all you have to do is press the CC button in your YouTube link in order to follow along with the words. Now I think that Madam Owl will be perfect to join us for today's adventure. Now that Madam Owl is here, let's jump in. Bunnicula, the Celery Stalks at Midnight. Chapter 2. Some thoughts on vegetables, or a deadbeat in the neighborhood. I was really awakened the next morning by Pete crash landing just inches from where I lay on Toby's bed. Wake up, wake up, wake up, you sleepy creep. Pete cried as he yanked his brother's pillow out from under his head and began badgering him with it. I was sorely tempted to pick Pete up by the tail end of his pajamas and deposit him through the nearest open window, but I decided this would not be particularly well advised. Besides, I had morning mouth, and the thought of getting cotton all over my tongue gave me goosebumps. Yuck! Toby, meanwhile, was screaming bloody murder. Get up! Get out of here, Pete! What's the matter with you anyway? Mom! As he began kicking furiously at his attacker, I did the only sensible thing left for me to do. Jump off the bed and head straight for the door. As I left, I noticed Pete pull the sheet across half the bottom of his face and say, "Toby, it's the big day, hee hee hee." That's a funny thing to say, I thought. Pete's momentarily stillness gave Toby an advantage. He picked Pete's legs out from under him and went running out the door to the bathroom. I started down the stairs, narrowly missing being hit by the basketball that flew out from the bedroom and hit the closing bedroom door with a thud. It bounced back across the hall floor, causing the light fixture on the ceiling below to quake. Boy, I thought it would be nice to get downstairs to get some peace and quiet. Mrs. Monroe stood at the bottom of the stairs. I whimpered good morning. "Toby, Pete," she greeted me in return. "Stop all the noise this minute. Peter, let your brother get dressed. Come down and eat your breakfast. It's getting cold." As I sauntered across the living room, Mr. Monroe rushed into the house, letting the front door slam behind him. "You won't believe it," he said. "The garage door's been open all night." "Oh no," Mrs. Monroe said. "Was anything taken? We're lucky no one broke into the house." Pete charged down the stairs, skipping every other step. "What about he started to say. His father waved his hands in the air. "Everything's right where it belongs. Nothing's missing. We were lucky this time, but we'll have to be more careful in the future." A delectable aroma reached my nostrils. I thought back to the youngly chocolate chip cookies Toby had shared with me the night before and decided a slice or two of nice crisp bacon presently burning in the kitchen stove would be the perfect follow-up treat this morning. "Oh no," Mrs. Monroe called. "The bacon." "Mom," Toby called from the stairs, "the toilet's stuck. I think it's going to run over." Mr. and Mrs. Monroe looked at each other and shook their heads. "You to the bacon," Mr. Monroe said. "I to the toilet." "And I to the food dish," I thought. Chester and Howie were already eating when I entered the kitchen with Mrs. Monroe. "Good morning," I said cheerfully. "Good morning, Uncle Harold," Howie yipped. Chester, seemingly lost in thought, or at least in cat food, said not a word. I was starved, but hesitated before digging in, hoping a little crumbled bacon might find its way to my dish. My hopes were not in vain. "Great," Mrs. Monroe said, whisking the sizzling frying pan off the stove. "Cold eggs and burned bacon. Well, this day off to a terrific start. Here, fellas, it's all yours." This day is off to a terrific start, I thought, as the bacon bits landed on my food dish. Chester, who still has not said good morning, didn't seem to share my attitude. "What's the matter with you today?" I asked. "Pop's had a rough night," I was informed by Howie. "Oh," I said. "What happened, Chester?" "Nothing happened," Chester's junior interpreter responded. "He just couldn't sleep, worrying." "Oh, come on," I replied. "What's to worry about? So Bunnicula got out. He'll come back. Everyone's in such a hurry around here this morning. Maybe they're going to look for him. Anyway, he'll be all right." "It's not Bunnicula that's Pop's worried about." I turned to Chester. "Chester, have you lost your facility to speak?" I asked. "Vegetables," Chester murmured. "What?" "Vegetables," Howie echoed. "Yes, thank you, Howie. I heard Chester. I just don't understand what he means." "Follow me," Chester said, turning and walking down the kitchen door. His canine shadow trailed behind him. "But," I said, turning to the still occupied food dish, "what about my breakfast?" Turning over his shoulder, Chester replied, "This is important," and he vanished beyond the swinging door. "Important," Howie repeated, as he too disappeared from sight. Hurriedly, I wolfed down the rest of my morning repast, and, in a matter of seconds, was in the living room. Chester was perched on the arm of his favorite chair. Howard sat intently at his feet. Toby and Mr. Monroe came down the stairs to join the rest of the family in the kitchen. In his arms, Toby was clutching an overflowing shopping bag. "I'm ready to go," he cried as he bounded through the kitchen door. "Not until you've eaten," I heard his father say as he followed. "Then we'll be on our way." Chester watched the swinging kitchen door slowly close, then turned to us. "Has it occurred to you what has happened to those vegetables?" he remarked. "What vegetables?" I asked. Chester looked deeply into my eyes. The vegetable that Bunnicula has attacked. The vegetable drains the juices out of people. The vegetables, in short, are vampires. Oh, those vegetables, I said. Those vegetables exactly, you see, Harold. I've given a great deal of thought to those vegetables during the night, and have concluded Howie, who'd stayed from the conversation momentarily to attack a throw rope someone had been thoughtlessly enough to leave lying around on the floor, of all places suddenly looked up. Pop's got this, huh? What'd you call it again, Pop? Theory, Chester said. Oh yeah, he's got a theory, see that? Howie, dear boy, Chester interjected. Why don't you let me tell it, Oh sure, Pop, however your way, replied the Dutch hound agreeably. He returned to chewing the corner of the rug. Chester went on. I have this theory, Harold, that those vegetables, once attacked, are not as harmless as one might think. I never thought of vegetables as harmless, I said, especially spinach. What do we know from literature of vampirism, he continued. Seeing as I knew nothing from the literature of vampirism, he persevered. We know that once attacked, vampires' victims become their master's slaves. In fact, they are transformed into zombie vampires. The living dead, doomed to go out into the night, seeking fresh bodies to satisfy their bloody cravings. Chester, I said softly, is it necessary right after breakfast? I can't wait, he snapped. We have to act fast. To do what, I asked. Sure you're not saying that these vegetables, do they just lie there and useless, finished, dried up, Chester repeated? Or does Bunnicula, like other vampires of old, have a further purpose for them? Are they his minions acting on his orders to turn the world into creatures like himself? When night falls, are they out there waiting to lure innocent victims into taking a bite? Just one bite and bam, you're a goner. Think of it, Harold. If Bunnicula got out last night, this entire neighborhood could be filled with killer parsnips, bloodthirsty string beans, homicidal heads of lettuce. Don't forget the minions, I said. What? The minions who are acting on his orders. Are minions like onions, Chester? A minion isn't a vampire, you dolt. A minion is a follower, a servant. Oh. I reflected for a moment on Chester's new theory. That's when I noticed Howie whimpering. The poor fellow was cowering under the coffee table. What's the matter, Harry asked. I'm afraid, he answered. What if those killer parsnips sneak up on me while I'm sleeping and sink their fangs in my neck? I turned to Chester. You see where your stories are getting us? Poor Howie's scared out of his wits. And rightly so if my thinking is correct. But it isn't correct, Chester, I replied. It's nonsense. We shall see. We shall see, Chester said, pulling at the hair between his toes. But if the people in this town start acting strangely, it could be because Bunnicula and his vegetables have succeeded in say no more. Chester bathed himself in sudden vigor as the entire Monroe family, laden with bottles, entered the living room. It looked as if they were heading for an outing of some kind. Well, why not, I thought. It's a beautiful day for a romp in the great outdoors. I was all set to join them when Chester nudged me. Come on, he said. We've got some checking up to do. Goodbye, Chester. Goodbye, Harold, Miss Monroe said, as she stood by the front door. Try to keep Howie and each other out of trouble while we're gone. If you want to go out, you can use the pet door. There's water in your dish, and... Dear, Mr. Monroe said, touching his wife gently on his arm, the boys will be fine. Besides, we won't be gone long. We'll be back this afternoon. Yeah, Pete said. Anyway, how do they know what they're saying? They're just dumb animals. Dumb animals, I thought? Pete had never been above talking to us before. I wonder if he was going through a stage these days. It seemed as Pete went through stages faster than Stalks. Toby kicked his brother in the shins. They're not dumb animals, he cried. I made the mental note to give Toby's face a reward of a thorough licking later. They're smarter than you are. Don't make me laugh, Pete snorted. They are too, are not. Are too, are not. Boys, Mrs. Monroe cried. Please, let's go. Still bickering, Pete and Toby were led out the front door by their parents. Goodbye, fellas, Mr. Monroe called over his shoulder as the front door clicked. Do you think we're smarter than Pete? I asked Chester. I think we are, Uncle Harold, said Howie. Why, just last week, Toby threw a stick in the backyard, and Pete didn't even know enough to chase it and bring it back with his teeth. Even I know that. Chester gazed at Howie through half-closed lids. Well, there's your answer, Harold, he said. Now come on, we've got to move. Where are we going? I asked as I followed Chester through the kitchen door. Outside, he answered. We've got to find the rabbit and see what damages he's already done. One after the other, we pushed through the pet door and into the back porch. Ah, I said, inhaling deeply. What a day. Howie, I'll race you to that tree in the corner of the yard. Whoever falls asleep fastest wins. But how will we know? Howie asked. Chester cleared his throat. Before you two tumble off into dreamland, remember what we came out here to do. Wait a minute, what's that? Chester bounded down the stairs and headed in the direction of the garden. Howie and I followed close behind. We stopped about 10 feet above the garden edge. There, Chester exclaimed. Do you see? Squinting, I made out a round white object laying several feet away. What's so casual about a rock, I asked. Chester's body hugged the ground as he splunked in the grass. Howie, whose body hugs the ground even when he doesn't slink, wallowed behind. Chester came up on the object and batted it tentatively. As I drew near, he pulled himself into full height and proclaimed deeply, "A beet, a drained white beet." "Oh great," Howie said. "Before you know it, the whole neighborhood will be full of dead beets." Chester announced, "Bunnicula has been here." "Get it, Uncle Harold? Get it, Pop?" Howie's tail wagging furiously. "Dead beets? Get it, huh?" "Yes, Howie." "Very amusing," Chester said. "However, you seem to be missing the point. Bunnicula has been here, and he's left the vampire beets in his wake." "Are you saying it's not a minion onion?" I asked cynically. Howie began to shake again. "Does that mean, could it be, will it, oh, how am I going to sleep tonight?" "Harold," Chester snapped, "grab that beet and run to the front of the house. We've got to warn the Monroes before they leave. Hurry." Being a born follower, and hoping to get this nonsense over with before I could get on with more important things, like sleep, I did as Chester bade me. As I was rounding the corner of the house, Mr. Monroe was pulling the station wagon out of the driveway. "Get their attention," Chester cried. "Do something." "I can't, my mouth is full," I tried to say, but it came out with like a Howie. Howie reared his head and let out a Chester's hair went up. "It really gives me the creeps when he does that," he said. But he saw the Monroes turn and look back through their car windows at it. So it must have done the trick. They waved. "Goodbye, boys," they cried. Mr. Monroe called out, "That's a good boy. You play with that odd tennis ball. See you later." "Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye." I called out on both sides of the beet, which quickly spat out. "Now what?" I asked. My mouth felt funny. How and I regarded Chester, who almost seemed lost in thought. After a moment, he turned to us. "All right," he declared, his eyes getting the glaze. "I know means trouble ahead. It's up to us. It's a big job that has to be done. But no job is too big for us. All right, men?" "Well," I said. "Right, Pop," shouted Howie gleefully. "Let's go. Let's do it. By the way, what is it we're going to do?" "You'll see," Chester replied. "Wait here." And he disappeared around the corner of the house. Oh, wow. Things are getting very interesting here with Chester, Howie, and the rest of the gang. What do you think, Madam Owl? I like that part too. We'll see you on the next adventure, okay? And we'll see you on the next adventure here with Wayne Reads. Thank you for joining us because I, Rocket Wayne. Hold on a second. I think I hear superheroes afoot. I've got to get out of here, but you all take care, and I can't wait to see you in the next adventure. Bye-bye.